Thank you. Thank you. It's really wonderful to be with all of you here today. And you know, we've been doing these pep talks for a couple of years. But until now, I've been on the listening and learning side of these pep talks. So this is my first pep talk, so help me, okay? I want to share with you something that I care very, very deeply about. And it's a subject that I think is one of the most important skills that everybody needs to have going forward. And this is a topic called lifelong learning. Okay? Now, you might sit here and say, lifelong learning, come on, I'm learning every day. My kids teach me, my family teaches me, my job teaches me. What are you going to tell me in a pep talk on lifelong learning? But what I'm talking about in terms of lifelong learning is something different than what you learn from your day-to-day. If you look at the dictionary, it defines learning as the activity or process of gaining knowledge or skill by studying, practicing, being taught, or experiencing something. Okay, that's what it says, which means learning is a bit more structured than what you might be experiencing day to day in your life. So what I'm about to talk to you today is, how do you get that structured learning inside PepsiCo? And why is it important? Let me tell you that the pace of change in the world has gone up exponentially. If you look back decades ago, pace of change was quite slow. You could go 20, 30 years without much change in the world. But today, every day there's something happening in the world that has an impact on PepsiCo. It could be a technology, it could be a geopolitical movement, it could be something major happening on regulation. Everything around the world is going to impact us enormously. And the only way that we're going to keep up with all of this, all of you and me, is if we look at these trends, study them in great detail, and then figure out how those trends are going to impact the company. So in a way, we are now at a point in all our lives where we have to be students all the time. We have to go to school on everything we do. We have to go deep on everything we do and be lifelong learners. So let me give you some examples in my own life. Way back in 2000, I had to sign a CapEx for $1 billion for Project One Up, which is to put an SAP system in. So the CapEx came to me. I was CFO at that time. The CapEx came to me. There were 20 people who had signed the CapEx. I was the 21st signatory, and Steve Reinemund, the CEO, was going to be the 22nd. So when I got the CapEx, I couldn't understand what it said. So I read it, and I said, my God, this is much too complex. On the other hand, 20 people had signed it before me, right? So if I had signed it as the 21st, Steve would automatically sign it because I signed it. I said, okay, let me see if I can go to number 19 and ask them what this CapEx meant. So I went to number 19. The person said, hey, I checked the tax calculations, they're all fine. I went to number 18. They said, I checked the financial model, it was all fine. And I kept going down the line. Each person looked at their piece, and they said it was fine, but nobody at the senior levels could give me a full perspective on the CapEx. It scared me to death. Because if I was going to sign a CapEx, which Steve was going to sign after me, I better know everything there is about the CapEx, because if something went wrong, I was accountable, because it's this company's money, $1 billion, that was going to go into this CapEx. So between Thanksgiving and New Year, I locked myself in my office. I bought textbooks. I hired a few professors, and I studied like a student. I read each of these textbooks, went to school on ERP systems, tried to understand what our architecture was, where the issues were, why we needed to spend $1 billion, why these modules cost so much. And by New Year's Eve, I was a walking expert on ERP systems. I was a student for 6 weeks. My God, I studied everything. But I could now sign the CapEx, knowing that I was doing the right thing for the company. Now, did I waste my time? Absolutely not. That learning that I acquired, that structured learning I acquired, is going to stand me in good stead all my life. I could have avoided it. But I look back and say, today I'm CEO because I went to school on those things which made me a better executive, which then put me in a position to move into positions of higher authority. I raise this to you because that's an example from my life. I'm sure each of you are facing similar situations where you brought something where you go, I really don't know what it means, but if everybody else has checked it, I'm sure it's okay. It's not okay. Because if you don't really know what something is, don't sign it, don't approve it, don't pretend you know what it is. Go to school on it. That's what I mean by lifelong learning, because if we don't all enrich ourselves in a more structured way, then what's this job all about? You understand what I'm saying? Very, very important that you really engage in all these materials in a very, very in-depth way. I actually find all of this exhilarating. I love all of these issues that I have to deal with, whether it's something to do with R&D, something to do with operations, something to do with marketing, even finance. I find it all exhilarating. On sustainability, I didn't know much about sustainability. I'm learning everything there is to be about climate change, electric cars, water conservation, all new areas for me. But unless I understand those disciplines, how can I tell all of you to go off and spend hundreds of millions of dollars of CapEx to do environmental sustainability in the company? So being a lifelong student for me is absolutely critical for me and for all of you if you want to get ahead in this company. Not just to be a CEO, don't get me wrong, just for you to move into the next job requires that you're a lifelong student. Now, as I'm enriching myself, I'm making better decisions. I'm making more informed decisions, and I'm making more responsible decisions for the company. And that's critically important because that's what you'd expect out of me, right? So and that's what I expect out of you. And I'm hoping that all of you would continue becoming lifelong students, because if you want to take on bigger and bigger assignments, you're going to have to become lifelong students too. So the big question is, how do you become a lifelong student? Do you just go buy all the textbooks you can on any topic and start studying it? Don't try it, because there's too many books you'll need and you'll go nuts, all right? So I wish I had had easy answers, because if I had the answer, every grade school teacher will be knocking on my door saying, how do I encourage my people to be lifelong students? So what I'm going to do is to give you a few tips on how you can be a lifelong student. I'll just share with you my own observations and what I've really experienced in my life. The first, you've got to love your job. The only way you're going to really immerse yourself and become a lifelong student is if you fall in love with your job. And even if you don't love it, figure out a way to love it. Why do you get up in the morning and come to work if you don't love your job? And if you want to do well in this job that you love so much, you will try to learn as much as you can about the job. I wake up every morning dying to come to work, because I love this company, I love our people, I love the job. Love your job, because if you love your job, being a lifelong student is that much easier. The second, be curious. You know, when you're a kid, you say, why is the sky so high? Why is it blue? Why is the bird flying high? You know those questions little kids ask, these almost impossible questions? What happens when we get older? We stop being curious. Why? Curiosity is what makes you become a lifelong learner. There's a founder of Toyota who wrote a piece on the 5 whys. He said, always ask the question why 5 times. And by the time you get to the 5th why, you've gotten to the root cause of the problem, and you understand the issue that much more. What is it about us that as we get older, we stop asking those 5 whys? So the second thing I'd say to you is be curious. Have an incredible sense of curiosity. Don't irritate everybody by asking them for the whys. You can go get the answers on Google. You have this wonderful thing called Google, right? Siri, Google, you can Google these questions and get answers. But be incredibly curious. Ask questions. Ask it of your colleagues. Ask it of Google, whatever. Get the answers and educate yourself. Because if you're curious, believe me, you'll get to a better place. Third, take your job and view it expansively. You know, every job in PepsiCo is not an island unto itself. It's got linkages with everything else. And I've noticed many people defining their jobs in a smaller and smaller way, in a narrower and narrower way. Define it in a broader way. I always thought to myself saying, if I was a janitor in PepsiCo, how would I define my job? I'd probably redefine it to be the beautifier of the building. And I'd be talking to everybody who's involved in making this building beautiful to figure out how we could all work as a team to make this building the best building in all of Westchester County, why all of the East Coast, why all of the United States. You know, I'd probably set some lofty goals. Why am I doing that? Why should my job be narrowly defined? Because I think I'm capable of doing something bigger. And if you start expanding your job and looking at the linkages with everything else, you'll get more curious, you'll learn more about other jobs, and you'll be much happier in the job that you're in. So My third advice to you, expand your job and expand the boundaries of your job and interact with people around you so you can actually learn more about how your job impacts and interacts with the rest of the company. Tip number 4, never feel your student days are over. Never feel your student days are over, because the day you feel that your learning days are over, your student days are over, is when you atrophy. Think about it. When we got to college, it was an exciting time. You know, we were young, youthful, full of life. Why can't it be that way every day? Why can't we look at each other and say, boy, every day I'm learning something new? Think of yourself as a student every day. We don't have all the answers to everything, do we? Even today, I feel like a young student. I sit down with Mahmood, I talk about some technology. I feel like he's educated me. Then I go back and read textbooks. So next time I talk to him, I sound that much more educated. That's just me, okay? But if you start looking at yourself as a student every day and come to work with that same excitement, believe me, it makes this whole learning process that much better. And the final lesson is be passionate. Be totally and completely passionate about what you do. Because passion drives so many things. Passion drives you to have a sense of curiosity. Passion drives you to be a student. Passion makes you define your job in a much broader way. Passion makes you a better lifelong student. And if you really bring passion and your emotion to work as opposed to just your intellect to work, you'll find that the job itself is that much more fun, and this whole notion of lifelong learning is that much more rewarding and fulfilling to every one of you. So let me close by saying that in the past, if you wanted to be a lifelong student, at least when I was growing up, you had to go to a library. You had to find the book. Typically, it wasn't there. Somebody else had taken it out. Or it was in the reference section, which means you had to read it just there. And if somebody took it, you had to put a reservation on it, and then you got it. You couldn't mark it. Remember those days? I'm much older than you guys, so that was my time. Today, everything you want is in the digital world. You don't even have to read it. There are book summaries. Everything is given to you in bite-sized pieces, already digested, chewed. All that you have to do is swallow it, okay? So my point to you is, don't tell me it's not available. It is available. Whatever you need is available. I'll tell you a little story. When I was a consultant many, many, many years ago, I had to do a case on a competitor's manufacturing plant. We were doing a competitive analysis. And they'd built this plant, and I needed to know how many people were in this plant and what the cost per pound of the product was going to be. Searched and searched and searched for the material, couldn't find it. I'm not talking about 1983, 84. Then I realized that I needed that data in order to do the work. And there was only one place to get the data. That was the CIA. Because the CIA had a lot of information. And if you filed a Freedom of Information request with the CIA, if they could give it to you as non-classified, they'd give it to you. And guess what? A month after I filed it, I got all the satellite pictures of this factory, and they asked me if I wanted it at 10,000 feet, 5,000 feet, or 3,000 feet. Can you believe this? They showed me how many bays, they showed me how many parking spots. They gave me all the information. So from that, I could calculate how big the plant was going to be, what the crewing was going to be, how many toxic chemicals were going to come in and out. I could calculate everything and know everything there was about the plant. Now, why am I saying this to you? Don't ever say the information is not available. Say you didn't look hard enough. Because everything is available in the world for you to take in and then figure out how to do your job better. So, look for the information. It's all available. And guess what? With PEP University now, we have all the courses, all the material available for you. You no longer have to go to a university or sign up for courses yourself. If we don't have it available at PEPU, we'll make it available for you. Okay? And if you need a field experience through PepsiCore, through any of our leadership programs, we'll make it happen. And if you have a new idea as to how we should make something available for you, let us know. We'll make that available for you too. So what we're saying to you is we're taking the difficulty away from you to be a student. We don't want to make it difficult for you to be a lifelong learner, because between Google and all the online stuff and PepsiCo University, it's all there for you. So the excuses are gone. It's just your own mindset and how passionate you get that's going to get you to be a lifelong learner. And why do I say you have to be a lifelong learner? Besides the fact that the world is changing, remember the company is a pyramid. It's not just PepsiCo. Every company is a pyramid, right? If you want to move ahead and get to the top, whichever part of the top you want to be in, It's a race to the top. People talk about the race to the bottom. This is a race to the top. And the people who are going to be better lifelong students and really get passionate and define their jobs more expansively and be lifelong students are going to get to the top. And believe me, because our company is growing, there's more and more room at the top. But there's room at the top for lifelong learners. So I hope the big message you take away from today's pep talk is, I'm here because I was a lifelong learner. I still am a lifelong learner. My kids still ask me why I have homework every day. My grown kids ask me that because I have so much to read. I wish every day was 30 hours. I wish every day was 30 hours. It isn't. I read, I absorb, I imbibe. You should do the same, because if you do that, first you feel younger, you feel greater, but believe me, you'll get further in your career than you ever expected to get. So thank you for your time, and I hope I have motivated you enough to become lifelong learners, because in this 21st century company, we need all of you to be lifelong learners in order to make this company even greater than it is today. Thank you.